Hey YouTube, you know who this is. It's MTX86. You know what this is. In case you don't, it's episode 7 of How to Ride a Motorcycle for Beginners. And we've covered a lot of basics so far. We're kind of at the point where we're already riding at this point, but we're riding in a straight line. We know how to ride it in a straight line, we know how to stop, but we don't know how to turn. So that's what we're going to cover today, and this is a very interesting topic. I still remember when I was looking up how to ride, the concept didn't make sense, but we'll get into that in a sec. So if you've heard the term counter steering, you've probably been a little bit frustrated and a little confused as to how that works. So we're going to talk about how it works. But first and foremost, it's very important to realize, sorry I keep playing with this gap here, it's very important to realize that counter steering is not used all the time. It's used at higher speeds. The majority of your riding on actual streets, if you're not coming from a stop sign or a red light or something of that nature, is going to be counter steering. I would say it typically kicks in at about 35 kilometers an hour. So first and foremost, below 35 kilometers an hour, we're going to use regular traditional steering, where if I want to go left, I'm going to turn the bar left. You're not usually relying on leans at that point to turn the bike, right? So if I'm at a stop sign and I'm going to turn left, once I'm good to go, as I'm giving it throttle, easing off the clutch, I turn the handlebars left. Now, again, that's all fine and good until you get to about 35 kilometers an hour in speed. 30, 35, and then counter steering kicks in. And so what counter steering is quite the opposite. So essentially, if I'm riding down the road and there's a bend going to the left, I'm going to turn the bars right. Right, and it sounds really confusing, and to me it just didn't make sense. Like, okay, so if I turn the front tire right, I'm going left. How does that make sense? And I'll explain it so that it does, because I think it's a lot more, like, I don't expect people to just blindly buy into it, although it is the case, so it's going to happen regardless of if you agree with it or not. I think it's a lot more crucial that you actually understand why that is. So when you're going faster, at higher speed, you're using momentum. Now, if you think of basic physics, objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects at rest like to stay at rest, right? So let's say this is your bike right here. You got your front tire, your rear tire, and we're moving forward. We're going 50 kilometers an hour. We've got momentum working with us. So what happens now if I turn the wheel right? Again, momentum wants to keep me moving forward, like so. So keep in mind, your tires are rounded. So as I turn the tire right, it'll kind of go like that based on momentum, which will cause the back tire, which doesn't turn, to lean left. Okay, so bike goes like that, leans left, and it turns left around the corner. Same thing vice versa. You're simply using momentum, and all you're doing with the handlebars is you do a slight turn. You don't crank it, but if you give it, if you pull in slightly to the right, that's just enough to get the bike leaning over to the left-hand side, and it's the lean that's going to bring you around the turn. So we will demonstrate that, and we will look at the two different types of turning. Again, it's very important to understand it and not just accept it. As far as I'm concerned, anyway, to me it made a lot more sense when it was explained that way. And this is a lot of things, like, this is something that's going to actually come natural. You don't have to put too much thought into it, so don't overthink it. I was talking to friends of mine when I was learning, and I couldn't grasp it. And they were basically saying, like, if you've ridden a bicycle at higher speeds, you've already done it. You just didn't realize it. And it's kind of true. Like, when you're going around bends, you don't necessarily think, well, I've got to turn this way now. You just do it. It's all part of the leaning process that your body just naturally does. Where you do want to keep it top of mind and remember it and practice it, I would say is for swerving. So one thing that I have been doing is, while I'm going down the road, I'll lightly pull to the right so I can swerve to the left and swerve to the right, and kind of play with that, and I'll avoid manhole covers and such just to get the hang of it. So In an emergency, if an emergency situation were to present itself, I'd be ready, and that would be kind of a natural reaction at that point, as opposed to I want to go right, so I turn right. Right? You just kind of want to use muscle memory to get yourself out of those situations. So without further ado, let's give her a go. So again, now that we're in a parking lot, it's going to start, here I'll close the mask, it's going to, as I'm going in low speeds, like I said, if I turn left, turn the bar right, bike turns right. So it's everything that you would expect it to be when you're going at slow speeds. Around this, I'll turn it left. So that's all well and good. That's the part that I'm sure everyone understands. So right now I'm going 30, and it's the same thing. I just turned the bar right to turn right. So we'll go on the actual street so that we can gain a little bit more speed. So I can show you the counter steering portion. Now again, don't put too much thought into it. Like I said, I think it's crucial to understand it, but don't overthink it. Okay, so now I'm turning the bar slightly to the left to go around this corner. Now you'll see that I'm on a straight stretch. So my left hand isn't touching. I'm going to push lightly on the bar and we go to the right. I pull lightly on the bar and we go to the left. Okay, so it's quite the opposite. So like I said again, right now you can see I can't physically pull on the bar. I'm going to slowly push on it. There we go. Now I'm going to slowly pull on it. And there we go. Okay, so it's douchebag didn't wave. It's quite the opposite of what you would expect it to be. But like I said, it comes naturally. And it's simply the law of physics. I don't know what law of physics, but I'm sure it's a law. So like I was mentioning, at higher speeds, kind of, you can kind of whip the bike around just to get a hang of it, to avoid obstacles and such, so that when need be, if duty calls, you will be prepared. And now that we're at a stop sign, there's another good example where counter steering does not apply. So because I'm going slow, I turn the bar left and the bike goes left. Oh. Good thing we practiced how to stop in the previous episode. That's basically all there is to it. It's not that bad when you think of it. It's not something you should worry about. But it is an interesting topic for people who don't ride. Where if they say riding a motorcycle is easy, you'd be like, oh yeah? Did you know that if I turn my bar left, I go right? And I'm like, what? And then you look like a genius. I'll turn the bar left here, and we go left. Yeah, so like I said, you're not turning the bar much. You're just doing it enough to get the bike into a lean, just to change the center of gravity of the bike, and off you go. All right, folks, thanks so much. Stay tuned for the next episode.